One of the Frederick Douglass' slave mistresses began to teach him how to read and write, and her husband stopped her when he realized what she had been doing. Even though Frederick Douglass made the expression, "knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave," famous, he did not come up with the saying himself. One of his slave masters said it about him when telling his wife to stop teaching him how to read and write. After Frederick Douglass escaped slavery in the year 1838 and eventually began his career as an abolitionist, writer, and human rights activist, he promoted this teaching not because it sounded clever, but because it proved to be true for him. Peace, y'all. It's your man, Jay Serrone. I hope everybody's having a good day today so far. I'm ghostwriting. Ooh, it's like, nah. But I wanted to share an excerpt, not from the book I'm ghostwriting. I'm going back and forth between that book and the book I've been writing since 2016, Jewels for Your Crown. It's a book of advice that I started writing for my son when I was going through a divorce and custody battle. And I thought I might not see him again for several reasons. So when I was writing it, I thought, well, this might be good for other people, right? Their kids, whatever. And so I figured I'd publish it. And because I was going through stuff, got him back in 2017, got 50-50 custody, and I figured, you know, I was living life, right? So now I'm finally finishing it because stuff been going on. So I wanted to share, get your thoughts, so feel free to comment, post, share, whatever. You know how it goes, it's YouTube, right? So anyway, Jewel number 1, chapter 1, Literacy Matters, aka Reading is Gangster. I know you're not surprised the first chapter in a book of advice from your father is about the importance of reading. I mean, I am a writer and all that. Reading is gangster. But for real though, literacy truly matters. And as a black person in America, reading is very important to us for several reasons. We have spoken about how during American chattel slavery, black people were not allowed to learn how to read or write. And if they were caught reading or writing, they were punished or even killed. Anybody, even a white person caught teaching a black slave to read or write risked the same punishment. Why didn't the people in power, aka dominant society, want slaves to read? Well, as Frederick Douglass once said, knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. So, on the other hand, someone who cannot or will not read makes a better slave. Back then and now. Who was Frederick Douglass anyway? Did he even know what he was talking about? Let's find out a little about his background to see if he was qualified to make that statement. Well, guess what Frederick Douglass used to be? He was a former slave who escaped at 19 and became a famous speaker, writer, abolitionist, someone who fought against slavery, and an American politician. He was born in February 1818 and died on February 20th, 1895, only 30 years after chattel slavery was officially abolished by the 13th Amendment in the United States. After escaping slavery in Maryland, Frederick Douglass became such a well-respected public speaker that many people found it hard to believe that he was once a slave. He used this topic as an argument against slavery and to promote education and literacy in his speech and writings. Frederick Douglass wrote many books, including several autobiographies during his lifetime. In the year 1845, he wrote the following in one of his abolitionist autobiographies entitled Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave. I think this should be titled. But anyway, I'm not going to read the excerpt. You could either wait till Jewels for Your Crown comes out, or you could just go buy the Frederick Douglass book, which you know where it's available. I'm not going to plug the major bookseller. You know who they are. But it's Narrative of Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave. It was published in 1849, actually. He wrote it in 1845, but it was published in 1849 by the Anti-Slavery Office, number 25, Cornhill. So back to Jewels for Your Crown. So basically, one of Frederick Douglass' slave mistresses began to teach him how to read and write, and her husband stopped her when he realized that she had been doing so. Even though Frederick Douglass made the expression, knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave, famous, he did not come up with the saying himself. One of his slave masters said it about him when telling his wife to stop teaching him how to read and write. After Frederick Douglass escaped slavery in the year 1838 and eventually began his career as an abolitionist, writer, and human rights activist, he promoted this teaching not because it sounded clever, but because it proved to be true for him. Reading is essential for so many reasons. It creates so many opportunities for you. I told you about how when I was a young kid, my grandmother in Chicago taught me how to read before I started kindergarten. Being able to read well gave me an advantage in school when I started. It made learning easier. That's why I did the same with you when you were younger. See how well you have done in school from a young age? Do you think that is a coincidence? You are privileged to have a relatively easy learning experience with no apparent learning disabilities. We both know and are related to people who struggle to do things which are easy for you to do as far as reading, writing, and speaking eloquently. I encourage you to appreciate your natural talent and gifts and to further cultivate them. Use them to benefit yourself and others. Please do not take them for granted or let them go to waste. Growing up, reading also helped me when I didn't have anything else to do or when I was on punishment. Because let's face it, who gets punished from books? Many people view reading as a punishment. How sad. I don't read as much as I used to or should, but I always enjoyed reading because it provided an escape from reality for me, unlike television or video games. When I was a kid, technology wasn't as advanced as it is now. We had some cool movies, but as we have discussed, even most movies are based off books. Not only have I been entertained by books, but I've also learned a lot from books over the years. We already discussed how my grandmother taught me how to read while I lived with my mother and her parents in Chicago as a young kid. Well, when my parents got back together, my father realized how well I could read. He always told me to look it up in a dictionary whenever I asked him how to spell difficult words. It was annoying at the time, but looking up the words myself helped me commit them to memory more easily and helped me remember the definitions. This also led me to have an advantage with my ability to learn and retain information over the years, both in school and at work and in business as an adult. Since it helped me, I encourage you to do the same in hopes that doing so will give you similar advantages. One more thing about my history with reading. To be totally honest, I even learned the proper way to perform some illegal activities by reading about them. See, the thing is, whether positive or negative, people say a lot of things. You can choose to believe them or you can research things for yourself. Based on how I was raised, I chose to research things myself. So many times I knew how to do things I should not have known how to do as well as I did because I read so much when I was younger. Before I even really started coming out the house myself, aka hopped off the porch as a young teenager. I'm definitely not encouraging you to follow that path. I'm using my bad example to show you that you can learn how to do basically anything the right way if you do enough research before you start. Of course, technology is extremely useful. I watch YouTube videos all the time to learn how to do things. But when I hear or watch something I've never heard before, I do my own research and often fall into a rabbit hole by reading. I learn a lot that way. People often call each other smart, but their intelligence often stems from curiosity and the willingness to learn, to read, and to do research into subjects they are curious about. When all else fails, you can pull out an instruction manual and put together a piece of furniture if you know how to read it, even if you don't have access to the internet, right? You can always catch the bus home even if your phone dies if you know how to read the bus or train schedule, right? You can write a rap with pen and paper and read it back in the studio even if the battery on your phone or iPad with all your rhymes in it is dead, right? Now do you have a better understanding of why I always say reading is gangster? So I want to address one thing real quick because I had shared this with somebody a while ago. They were like, why would you put that in there about knowing how to do illegal stuff? Well, because I have a record from 2010 and my son knows about it. He was a few years old when I was on house arrest. He used to always ask me, Daddy, what's that thing on your ankle? And I told him, I don't lie to my son. So there's other people, I'm sure, who will read this book and their parents, especially maybe their fathers, have similar experiences. So what I'll say is this, let's not lie to our kids. A lot of time people think that they can lie to their kids and they're not gonna know what's up. Our kids know what's up. They lose respect for us when we lie to them and think that they don't know what's really going on. It's like Pac said in that song off Machiavelli, the last song off Machiavelli. You can tell the people you roll with whatever you want, but you and I know what's going on. Our kids often view us the same way. So I think it's better, and our kids will respect us more and resonate with what we say more if we tell them the truth. So I remember when I was a kid in 9th grade, for example, I didn't put this in the book, but when I was a kid in 9th grade, early in 9th grade, I did a book report It was a book in the library at my school on coca. I'll just put it that way. And then I was exposed to other people, right? And they put me in the street. Well, they didn't put me in the streets. I hopped off the porch. And so we was doing, I wanted money. I knew how to do stuff without them even showing me, because I did a book report for school and got an A on it, right? Got an A on it. Because I did this book report. I knew about the leads. We didn't have to do that. I didn't have to put it in the tub, and they do that in South America or whatever. We got it the way it was. But there was things I knew how to do because I knew the process. So I couldn't get jerked the same way because I knew the process. You see what I'm saying? That's not what you should do, is what I'm saying. That's the whole point of why I wrote what I wrote. You see what I'm saying? So the point is, let's be honest with each other, ourselves, because you got to keep it real with yourself to keep it real with anybody else. So bottom line is, this is an excerpt from the first chapter. There's some stuff before this, but this is the first real chapter in the book, Jewels for Your Crown. So I just wanted to share it. Hopefully you found some value in it. If you think anybody else, especially younger people, will find value in this book, this talks about mental health, religion, all types of stuff, right? So please feel free to like, share, comment, and hopefully when it drops, you'll cop. Reading is gangster, literacy matters, all that good stuff. You see the shirt. So I'm an 80s baby, grew up on Reading Rainbow and without the internet. So Paper Chase Publications, I got other books out already. Feel free to visit the site, paperchasepublications.com, and you see the post in the background. So Jay Cerrone, hope you enjoyed, and have a good day, y'all. Enjoy your weekend. It's Saturday in Philly on the East Coast. It's Memorial Day. If you celebrate, if you don't, enjoy your day wherever you are in the world. Have a good one, y'all.